Alright guys, welcome to the prep video. I've done most of the pieces, but I just wanted to show you how I sticky tape things together. So one, I cut at like an angle, and then I'm going to slice up. So I've got kind of this, an angle's off there, but then it's straight there. And then for the other one, I'm going to cut right up against the line. Like so. And so now this flap gives me something I can sit this other one on top of. So I usually, most of the time, I don't always do this, but most of the time I do, I flip it over and just stick it to half of the paper like that. So then when I sit this one on top, I've got something for it to actually adhere to, so it won't slip around while I then try and put some sticky tape on the top. So this is the easiest way that I've found to do, especially bigger pieces. I just like to create my own little tab. And by doing that angle at each corner, so if you pre-cut the whole thing out, the angle means that the little extra paper is not going to stick out the side. You'll also note I'm using pink scissors. These are my paper scissors. They are Fiskars something. I got them on like a clearance for $2. They're quite actually comfortable. In here's on like a nice angle so they don't hurt my hands. Unfortunately, I was using them for fabric and they died really quick. So now they've been downgraded to paper. Okay. So now I've got all of my pieces cut out from the pattern. Oops. Just going to fold that over. Now I just flukishly happen to have some boombox kind of fabric in my stash. So this is going to be my lining. And then for the outer, I'm using my new glitter vinyl because I'm ridiculous and I think it's going to look amazing. So I always, with any kind of vinyl, I always draw on the back. If you've gotten some like discount vinyl because it's got a mark, my suggestion is where it is here, hold your finger and draw on the back with a pen where any of the marks are so that you can avoid them while you're cutting out. So I'm just going to be using a normal 4 pen. And so that is the lining, that is the foam. So I need these ones. Now because my fabric's non-directional, but my edge, because it's the end of it, is a little damaged. So I'm just going to come off about 3/4 of an inch so that I'm not getting that bit. Now also normally I would laminate my pattern pieces, but I want to get everything done today. So that's why I'm not doing that. I will probably laminate them after the video. And usually actually I'm going to show you a little hack that I do. So before I laminate, I actually pull up the pattern to see if there's any other pieces. So I can tell from these pattern pieces, I'm going to have to measure out a gusset. So what I do is on usually the largest piece, so this will be my lining, on this little blank spot here, I'm also going to write handle lengths and any other like pieces that I need to measure out. And then when I laminate it, it's underneath and can't come off. If you forget to do that before you laminate, one solution to that is just write it on with permanent texture. It's like a Sharpie or something. Now you'll notice that I didn't go up. That's because I know I'm going to need a long strap, and so I'm going to use the width along that edge to do the strap piece. I haven't quite decided how I want to do my strap yet. I'm still thinking on that. I have some options. But I don't need to decide yet because I'm still just measuring out these pieces. Okay, so that's those. So that's all I need out of the vinyl for this until I go and get the pattern and write down the rest of the pieces. So I'm just going to cut around these pieces so that I can pop them aside. And it's always easy to cut right around the edge like that. And now it's easier to maneuver to cut it around curves and things. Also, because there are a lot of straight edges, you could also use a rotary cutter and a ruler. Never use a rotary cutter when cutting sequins. You shatter the blade. I know this from experience. Okay, so there's 2. Cut off the curves. So this little bit here I will throw out because I can't do anything with that. It's always why I like to get as close to the edges as possible for minimal wastage. Okay, so that's those 2. I'm gonna go grab my laptop and set it up so that I can then put down all the other pieces that I need. Okay, so another cool thing that you can do is just print off the section with all the pieces that you need. Because there's quite a few here, it will actually be easier for me to just cut this out and stick it to the pattern piece as opposed to writing them all out. And that's just because the gusset piece, because it's a rectangle, hasn't been added into the pattern pieces. I'm using this sticky tape because I can't find my sticky tape holder, so I have to just stick it to the table at the moment. It's not ideal, but it works. So I always stick all 4 sides so that nothing can accidentally lift up and tear. There we go. So now all the pieces that I have to cut, I can do from here. So the first thing I'm going to want is my really big ruler, which is on the back of the table because I pushed everything back to do the video. So I'm going to go along the long edge. And I never use the very edge of the ruler. I like to be able to see some lines so that I can line it up to be straight. I didn't cut this piece of vinyl. This was just how they packed it, unfortunately. Their lines are not terribly straight, which was very unfortunate. All right. So, there. And then I'm not going to move the ruler all the way up. I'm actually going to use half the ruler to stay on the line to make sure that I keep the line straight. Okay, and then come back down. And again, using your ruler, rule the rest of the line. If I was using the full width of the vinyl, you could also just rotary cut it straight off. That's another option as well. Okay, so now I want to do my handles. So I'm going to do it like this. So I want 2 handles. And then I can just come back and rule a line down the center. Now, if you're new to sewing, my recommendation would be to use a 4 pen, click it to a different color, and then you can mark the center line while it's here. Because it's easy to do when it's attached to a large piece of fabric than when it's just floating around by itself. Okay, so that's handles, crossbody strap, strap connectors, and next. So I'm now just going to use up this little space here because this is a smaller piece. When I've got bigger rolls of fabric, I always use one edge that I keep perfectly straight for crossbody straps, and then all the other shapes get cut out of the other end. Whoops, I'm on the wrong color. So the reason you do a different color is so that you know which one's a cut line and which one's a fold line. I promise it helps. And then I might go this way. So that's those. So they're going to be my strap connectors. And now I need to measure this one. So I'm going to do all the ruling first. So what have we got? I've done that, that. And I need 2 of these. So draw a second one. And then I need this one here. So again, this ruler is really handy because it looks like I'm going to be able to get all the pieces without having to remeasure. Okay, so there, but longer. Okay, so I'm not going to get it there. So now I'm going to come back down to this edge over here and get it down here. So I'm going to use as much of the edge as I can. Flip it over, line it up. So there's that piece. Cut one of those. Okay, so that's it out of the black. So now you can go ahead and cut it. Now again, if you want to, you can use a rotary cutter. I understand lots of people don't have one of those or the board or anything, so I'm just going to cut it. And because the camera's right where I'd be twisting everything, I don't want to knock you guys over. That's not ideal. So again, I'm just going to cut off all this little excess bit here. Now I'm only going to put the foam interfacing on this because I'd like to see how it holds up. Because I see a lot of people are concerned that it's a bit too flimsy. So we're going to test it. If you are ever worried about your fabric being not strong enough, you can always put like a medium woven interfacing on the back just to give it that added little bit of stability without making it too insanely thick. Now these strap connectors we're eventually going to chop in half anyway. So if you can't, like if you're really, really scrap busting, you could make them the smaller size. Now for my accent on my handles, I might end up doing, I haven't really thought about it yet, but I'm thinking, because my lining fabrics are pink and purple, what might look really nice is pink and purple for the embroidery and the piping and the accent and the zipper. So I'm thinking pink zipper. And I haven't really got further than that so far. Also with my glitter vinyl, I think I'm going to do it how I do the waterproof canvas. And I'm going to chop it into 1/2 and 1 meter pieces so that I don't accidentally oversell. And then I can have it all ready to ship to you guys quicker. I was thinking about that last night while I was trying to sleep. Width of your scissors. That, like, let them open all the way back up so that you're getting more out of your chop. I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, but if you're just doing little ones like this, this is going to take you ages. Whereas if you're using like the full length of your scissors, you don't have to line it up as often. And because I've done those red lines in red instead of blue, I didn't have to think about where to cut. I just cut blue. So from the 1/2 meter, I've still got all this left. And another thing I do is I roll my vinyl, and I always roll the nice stuff to the inside so that if anything ever like spills or you drop something on it, it's only going to be on the backing that nobody will see. I have no use for that bit on this roll, so I'm going to stick it in my scrap bag. I've actually started scrap bags for each colour of the rainbow, so different shades all go in the same box. I've got like one box of brown, one box of the different blacks, and yes, there are many, many different blacks. They all have a different texture or a slightly different colour, or they come off a different roll. Alright, so now it's time to decide what my accent is going to be. This is my lining. I also need to pre-iron this. So always pre-iron your lining, especially if you're using a poplin because it will shrink. I'm going to spritz it with some Iron Aid. You can also just spray it with some water so that it gets all its shrinkage out. So I'm going to go do that off camera because you don't need to see me do that. That's not anything exciting, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so it's ironed. Now we're going to keep cutting, I guess. So I'm going to first cut my accent for my straps because I want it out of the straight edge. So I'm going to cut 1.5. I'm going to cut it before or just after the edge. Now, if your fabric's not long enough, you'll just have to join two pieces. I do that in a lot of my videos, but the Missy Rose fabric, which is what this is, they come 150 wide, which is actually convenient for me today. And then I'm going to do the same for the handles. So I do one. I also want to draw off that edge. So there should be enough here for me to be able to do either a second one of these if I wanted to, or another bag. So you want to try and stick to one edge and use as much as possible. Then I'm going to line this up just after the edge. So I don't want to use the part of the selvage edge, so where all the perforated holes are. You want to just come just this side of it. And again, if you laminate your pieces, tracing around this will be much easier than what I'm about to do. I have to go a bit slower because I don't want the paper to move. But clearly I've had a lot of practice and it's fine. Now also think about the direction of your fabric. This fabric's non-directional, so it doesn't really matter which way I do it. So there's that done. So then I'm going to do the next one. Now again, because it's not directional, I'm actually going to lay it long way so that I'm not using as much height on my fabric. Like so. So that's those done. So then we need to go back to this piece and check what else we need to cut. So I need to cut a bottom gusset and the zipper gussets. So I flip my ruler this way. So I put the size that I'm trying to do there, and then I can just draw the straight edge like so. I do find this the easiest way. So this is the size I need. So I'm putting that up against the last, like a right angle. So then I can just trace around the open edges of the ruler. And they're done. And then it's just there to there. And that perfectly fits, like perfectly, like it's on the perforated dots. So I couldn't have aimed that better if I tried. So that's zipper, gusset, there. Is there anything else I missed? So this is again why we stick this on, so you can just reference it without having to grab your computer. Because mine's got a lot of cords coming out of it, and this is actually just easier to do. Okay. So now I'm going to cut all these pieces and add it to my pile off to the side. So I do all of my cutting before I do any of my ironing, because it's easier to do it all at once than having to go back and forth. It's not as productive. And I'm all about efficiency / laziness. Oops. So again, if you want to, you could use a rotary cutter for this. Also make sure your fabric's not tucked underneath so you don't accidentally chop it, because that would also suck. Alright, strap in a pile over there. Next lot of straps. So these are the handle accents. If I wanted to, I could have skipped these and done a glitter vinyl, which I still might do, even though I've cut it, because I can just use these on something else. The more I think about it, the more pink glitter is appealing to me. I'm also going to do my embroidery with pink, because I've got the pink lining. I could do it in purple, but I think pink's going to punch more of an 80s punch. My vocabulary sucks today. I'm just repeating everything. So again, I'm going to say it again. Use the full width of your scissors. And I highly recommend spring-loaded scissors of any description, because they take a lot of the pressure off your hands. Right. That's my inner zipper pocket. With this as well, if you wanted to, when you laminate it, I would be cutting out the rectangle box so that you can just trace it on. I don't cut it out until I've laminated it though, and then I use my craft knife and a ruler to get in there, because I find that the easiest way. If you were going to make a lot of these bags, I would actually highly recommend making a paper version of all the pieces that we have to cut. It's fine for like 1 or 2, but if you were going to make like 10 of these to go and sell, or for Christmas gifts for everybody in different colours, it would be much quicker for you to laminate the gusset pieces and like the zipper pieces that I'm doing now, instead of having to measure it each time. But like I said, only if you plan on doing a lot of it. Just one, it probably wasn't worth it. Not that I'm saying that I won't make more, but you know, not this week. Okay, I think that's it for that. So now I'm trying this new thing where I'm neater. So I'm going to just fold that up and put it back in the cupboard. They're like semi in order. Not a great deal, but a little bit. Okay. So now we need to cut that cool coloured accent that comes through there. And then we'll go on to the foam. So, I haven't cut myself off any pink yet. So I'm just going to grab the whole roll. So this is the pink for anybody that isn't in my Facebook group. It's like a bright, happy pink, which actually goes really well with that. It's not like a hot, deep pink, which I like. So we need to cut the... I always draw it on the back. Just going to flip it over like this. And then I'm going to grab this. And I'm going to rule my accent piece. And so then one that size. And then one that size. So for that last little bit, I can just go up and over. I think I will put this on my handles. I think it's going to look fabulous. But I'm just going to do a 1/2 inch accent, and I forgot to mute my computer. So it's dinging in the background. Oops. So I'm just going to do a little 1/2 inch accent. So that's what I've measured out here. Most of the time when cutting vinyl, I actually prefer my Class A scissors. They're just a bit, I've got a bit more grunt to them, I guess. And it's always handy to put this part on the table while you're cutting. It's like an extra stabilizer to make sure you get a straight cut. It's much harder to straight cut in the air. If you're super new to sewing in general, that's a good tip. It's probably a good tip anyway, but most of you probably know it. You could also, again, rotary cut these if you wanted to. Okay, so then I got my 2 little bits. So now I'm just going to cut off this final vinyl accent piece. Now if this piece gets too long, you can always come and then chop off that bit so it's not in your way. If that's the case, I probably didn't need to do it for that, but for really longer pieces, that's quite handy so you don't accidentally trim it or if it's annoying you. Okay, put that away. That will be part of my meter that I'm keeping for myself. So now I have to bag foam. So, the first thing I'm going to do is turn on my heat press. Because I always put foam on with my heat press. You can do it with an iron, but it takes so much longer. And then I'm going to grab my bag foam. This is the same stuff I sell on my website, but this is my roll, and then I have a separate roll, because otherwise you get, well, this one hasn't, actually. This one's got a perfectly straight edge at the moment, weirdly enough. So it doesn't matter which side you draw this on, this is double-sided anyway, and we don't see it. So I'm just going to line it up in the corner like this and trace those curves like that. And then I'm just going to do the next one next to it. So I don't like wastage where possible. You should see the tiny amounts of this I throw out. Everything butts up against each other. It doesn't, this isn't directional, really. So it doesn't matter if I was to cut it like that, except that I'm wasting all of that around it. And I don't like to do that. Okay. Foam tells me the size I need to cut here. So again, I'm going to grab my ruler and I'm going to check, and it's not going to fit next to it, so I'm going to come above it like this and like this. And then I've got to come back here just because of the curvy bits. So I've got a nice straight bit there. And I think that's all the foam that this has. Front, back, bottom gusset. The zip doesn't have any foam. So that's all the foam we need. Awesome. Now I'm going to chop this straight because it'll be easier when I come later to do the next one. That little point there is not going to help me. So I may as well chop it off so it's not annoying me later. So I'm going to cut the straight bits first, and then I can just come back and do all those little curvy bits. Like that. And like that. since I'm talking to myself, I might as well do it wholeheartedly. So that's all that I've wasted. That's really not that much. If you have animals, you can save this as like foam crumble. You could stuff teddies. You can do like the dog beds with it. I don't. I don't have time to do things like that, and I don't really have the space to have like a big bag of scraps. That's why as my fabric gets smaller and smaller, I fold it until it doesn't fit anywhere, and then I chop it into Devon pouches. And then the excess leftover scrap from that goes in the bin because I just don't have the space. All right, so I think that's all. So I think we can head over to the iron. So I'm gonna have to turn you off and move you. Okay, I also forgot that we still have to iron our shoulder strap. So the first thing I'm gonna do is just tuck under like 1/4 of an inch at the top and press that down. So then I'm going to do the same basic principle that I do for the vinyl, where I'm going to fold both sections into the center and then iron it. I'm going to just sit the iron on it while I adjust the next section and then just move along like this. Now, the other thing that you can do, and I do have one, is I bought myself a 3/4 of an inch bias tape maker, which does the same as this, but quicker. So I will show you this way in this video, and then in the next video, I'll show you that. So then we just shift it up so that you guys can see what I'm doing. And so I'm just pinching it in the center and pushing down. So pinch and push like that. And done. So that's the whole strap. So now that's ready to make the shoulder strap. We have moved. So I, again, buy myself this stuff in rolls. And the easiest way I found to do this is I put the roll on the floor and then I bring it up like this. And then I can just iron all the pieces on. So there's my lining. I'm not going to interface the accent strip for the strap because I don't want to, and I don't think it needs it. But I am going to interface the zipper parts. So not that, that's a strap. That's a strap. That's my bottom gusset, so I'm going to do that, and that's my zipper part. Now, as you can see, I leave mine in very weird shapes because I like to use as much as humanly possible. I don't like to waste things. This stuff's expensive. Well, I mean, it's not crazy expensive, but trust me when I say it adds up. I go through like 2 or 3 rolls of these a year, and they come in 50-meter rolls. Just depending on the order load. So I'm just going to put those there because that's like a skinny bit that I can use up. And I hold my iron for 4 seconds. Now this is just baking paper from a kitchen. I bought a whole cheap roll of it and it lives in the sewing room. So after this gets a little bit too damaged, it starts to go really brown. So once it goes too brown and I don't like it anymore, I then keep it in a pile and I use it for spray gluing things like Pocket Pal by Lynn's Handmade and the Dirt Nap by Seemingly Wicked, which I am also going to make this week. I'm going to figure out something to embroider on it so it matches in, and then I'm going to do it. I think it's going to be wonderful. And because I want to make one out of glitter vinyl. So again, I'm just looking at what pieces are going to fit where. So this is the edge. So I can put this right there, like that, and then this one here, and then that piece I can put in a pile and keep for later, or I could put it this way but then that little bit gets wasted, and then put that up there like so. So you can kind of just play Tetris a little bit in whatever makes you happy. I'm going to do it this way. The first way I think of is usually the best. And so this is what I do when I'm bulk making things. So I'm about to have to cut out 10 Belle baby bags by Swoon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand at that table and cut all of the fabric. And then I'm going to just have it in a big pile on my table. And I'm going to separate it into outside versus lining. And so then I'm going to iron all the lining on like this. So it will literally just be like a messy pile on the table because I'm going to iron it anyway. It doesn't really matter. Alright. So then I want to get that longer piece, which is the bottom gusset. For those that don't know, this is a medium woven iron-on interfacing. I love iron-on interfacing. I don't use non-iron-on for anything. Some people prefer it, not me. If you were to use a non-iron, so if you actually accidentally bought the non-iron-on version, don't just throw it out. All you do is you baste it to the edges and pretend it's one piece again. Now, I've got my iron set to the hottest it will go, and this is an insanely hot iron. So I only have to hold my iron for about 4 seconds, and then it's done, which is awesome. And I am going to interface my zipper pocket today. I usually don't do that because I find I don't like it as thick, but we're going to do it and we're going to see if I like it yet because I haven't done it in a while. And things change. I used to like all one coloured handles. Now I like the half and half look. I used to like riveting I love that word, riveting. I used to rivet my shoulder straps onto all the hardware, and now I stitch them in that X zone. So it just, I don't know, my tastes change. I like to keep it fresh and mix it up. Keep it fresh. I'm so 2000. Alright, so now just to double check, before you lift it up, you can just double check to see if anything's lifting. So just try and stick your fingers under it. So just there, see that? That's not what you want, because it'll annoy you later. It's not the end of the world if you've got it, but if you can prevent it, I would. And just move it up a little bit more. You'll also notice that there's a gap between the wall and my ironing board. That is a very deliberate thing so that I can feed the whole lot over there, because when I'm bulk doing it, like this could be like 3 meters long, like it was about 2 meters long with the NCWs the other day. So if I've got space that it can just kind of curl up there, I can just keep going. And then I want my scissors again. So these are my fabric cutting scissors. And then I'm just going to cut around the edge to chop everything off. And again, this might seem weird, but I promise I have tried all the different ways. I don't like pre-cutting this stuff. It's actually quite flimsy before you iron stuff to it. And it's quite difficult to cut straight lines. And usually you have to go back in and like trim the excess bit off anyway. So I'm just skipping a step. But you do have to make sure that if you haven't pre-washed your fabric, you do have to wet it and iron it to allow that shrinkage. So like the $2 poplin from Spotlight is the worst shrinker ever. I don't really use it because of that reason. But if you don't do it and you sit it on this stuff and then iron it, you will actually watch the edges shrink in. So wet it, iron it, let it shrink first if you have to use it. Same goes for if you're making clothes out of fabric. Always wash it for 3 reasons, really. 1, dye leakage. You don't want to be out somewhere and then suddenly you start turning red from your dress. That's not ideal. 2 is the shrinkage. And 3 is because you don't know what chemicals are left on there from the factory they came from. You're just assuming it's fine. That may not be the case. So I wouldn't risk it. I don't risk it. I pre-wash pretty much everything. Then it gets ironed and shoved in a cupboard. And if it sits there for too long, I may pull it out again and pre-wash it before I need to do something. If it's got some very prominent folds that I can't iron out, I'll go wash it again. That'll get them out. If you have a big fabric cupboard and it's starting to get a little bit musty too, a little trick I learnt from Pinterest, thank you Pinterest, is bicarb soda with some essential oils. So the bicarb soda will soak up any moisture and the essential oils make it smell pretty. So I've actually got one of them in my linen cupboard. And you can pick any essential oil. There's no right or wrong answer. Whatever you want it to smell like. I think I've got eucalyptus, tea tree, lemon, and lavender all mixed in together. It's actually quite nice. That's just because that's what I've got and I use a little bit of everything. Worst case scenario is it smelled bad and I threw it out. It was, what, a waste of 30 drops of oil? Whoop-de-doo. So this here will be going in the bin. Because I won't use that. I don't Frankenstein pieces because none of these sizes are worth it. Like, I could keep that and Frankenstein it, but I'm not going to. I don't really make any bags that I don't sell, and I think that if they're paying the money they are for a bag, they deserve the niceness. But if you're a home sewer, you could definitely Frankenstein these. So what I would do, if I was going to keep this, is I'd straighten all the edges so that they're all at right angles, and then just keep it in a pile, and when your pile gets too big, you can just Frankenstein it out. Okay, so that's all of the lining done. Now I'm only going to be able to iron one lot of foam on, because the others we need to stitch it before the foam goes on. So, my handy dandy heat press. I always have 2 pieces of baking paper. See how they're starting to yellow or brown or whatever? Put one down, and then I'm going to put the vinyl face down because your vinyl will just get destroyed if you put it the other way. Then I'm going to line up the foam in the center, like so. And then put another piece of baking paper on top. Now it's very important that this one covers all the sticky areas, so the entire foam. If it doesn't, you can do it half at a time. So I'm just gonna, oh, hello plastic. I'm just gonna put that down for around 10 seconds and then check to see if it's stuck on. If it's not, you can just do another lot. Now it will usually always stick to your baking paper, but it also comes off very easily. So the best way to see if it's attached is grab just the vinyl and see if it comes off. As you can see, it's not. So we're good to go. I think that's everything prepped. I think we're up to the next video where I'm going to do the embroidery. I hope that was helpful, guys. I will probably start doing more prep videos because I've got probably more tips and tricks that I've forgotten. So leave it with me. Bye!